Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on formulating a topic for your LEAP or EPQ academic assignment. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the following themes: how to go about choosing a topic, how to narrow things down so that your assignment is more focused and manageable, and then finally, some initial questions around planning and preparation to ensure that you use the time available most effectively. The first step in choosing a topic is to think about what you're interested in. Now, this might sound like a rather obvious thing to say, but giving time to really considering what genuinely excites and enthuses you will help you maintain motivation throughout the project. Initially, it's a good idea to make a list of all the kinds of topics you might want to find out more about. At this stage, don't worry whether these ideas are general or very specific. The point is to write down as many as possible. You might want to write them on a list or onto sticky notes. The advantage of using sticky notes is that you can then move them around later to create clusters of similar or related topics. A second option is then to think about possible combinations of interests. This is entirely optional. It might be that your ideas don't necessarily combine that well, or it might be that you already have a very specific idea about what you would like to focus your attention on. This is merely a suggestion, and sometimes thinking about possible combinations of topics gives you a slightly more novel and interesting way of approaching a particular topic or theme. Once you've decided on a topic or combination of topics, the next step is to think about how this might be narrowed down. Now, this process of narrowing down is vital. First of all, it enables you to focus on detail and depth rather than breadth, and we'll be talking in a moment about why that's so important. It also helps to make the assignment a much more manageable and realistic process from your point of view. In order to help illustrate this point, imagine that you are taking a day trip to London, arriving at 9 and departing at 6 in the evening. You only have limited time, so you make a list of all the things that you would like to see. Now, if you use the list here, you might just about get around to seeing everything you want to, but the chances are that even if you did, you would only be able to spend a very small amount of time at each place. What is more, you would spend a good part of your day rushing around between locations, worrying about whether you would fit them all in on time. Now imagine instead you made a shorter list of priority attractions. This way, although you would visit fewer places, you would actually get to spend more time at each and get to know each in more detail, and you'd probably have a richer experience as a result. You would also be much less pushed for time, so you wouldn't need to worry so much about getting everything done that you wanted to. The same goes for your assignment. If it's too broad and covers too many areas, you will not be able to provide the detail and depth that you are looking for, and may well struggle to manage the workload. Alternatively, if you focus instead on depth, perhaps covering just 2 or 3 main points in detail, you will be much better placed to provide what your tutors are looking for and also to manage the workload more effectively. So, when formulating your assignment, think about the ways in which you could narrow things down. Here are just some examples of the kinds of questions that you could ask in order to help you do this. So you might ask if there's a particular aspect or theme within your topic that you would like to focus on. There may be particular parts of the world, or indeed parts of the UK, that you could look at. You might be interested in particular sections of the population, based, for example, on age group, ethnicity, gender, etc. Similarly, there might be a particular period of time that you want to give particular attention to. And finally, you could narrow down the kinds of information sources that you would be interested in using. Let's look at some examples of this narrowing down process in action. In the first example, an interest in global warming might lead you to think about the main causes of global temperature rises. In developing greater focus for your assignment, you could then decide to look in detail at just one of the main causes and its impact on a particular part or parts of the world. The next example takes as its starting point an interest in gender roles and sexism. This might lead you to think about how these issues can impact on the lives of women and men. For an assignment, though, it would be more sensible to narrow things down even further, to think about the impact on a particular area of activity. For example, the choices men and women make about what to study and why. And in this final example, 20th century literature is our starting point. This might lead you to consider a particular genre of writing, for example poetry, prose, or drama, and this in turn might then lead you to think about particular writers and how they use genres to write about particular themes that you are interested in. Once you've narrowed down your topic or topics, you need also to think about how you're going to manage the project itself. Now, elsewhere in this unit, and certainly later on in the Study Skills module, there's lots of advice and guidance and resources to help you do this more effectively. For now, we're just going to introduce some key initial questions that have a relevance for how you plan and prepare both the research and the writing of your assignment. So the most obvious question to think about is when the final deadline is. But beyond this, it's worth also asking how long before this final deadline do you want to have your assignment completed by, bearing in mind that you will probably, or you certainly should be, looking to make changes, corrections, proofread the final piece before you hand it in, etc. Another important question to consider as early as possible is how much time you're going to allow for the writing. Now, as we will see later on in the module, writing is something you should start as soon as possible, but certainly you should also look to make sure that there's a good, realistic and manageable period of time during which you'll be able to focus most of your attention on writing the assignment itself. And we say this because it's often an area that students underestimate, and you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you give yourself enough time to produce the best quality piece of writing that you can. The assessment for this module asks you to think about these questions, but also the other questions that have been covered in this tutorial. So you'll be asked to come up with an idea for your assignment, to explain why it's interesting and how you intend to focus your attention in order to provide the depth and detail. And once you've submitted that, you'll also then be able to get feedback from your tutor. So the very best of luck with that, and thank you very much.